everybody. How are you guys feeling today? Is everyone feeling good? If you're scattered out, will you move in? Come in. Come in, please. I want to feel you. I want to be with you.
Bathroom.
Come, bring it in. If you're in the back, come forward if you want. All right. Who is here for the first here? How many people here began to wake up because of one of the speakers who's here? Like, what about Dr. Ron Paul? Can I see a show of hands for people who woke up by Ron Paul? Wow. Okay, what's crazy to me is this is hands went up for Ron Paul than first time attending. That means we're bringing in new people. Welcome. We are so happy to have you here. I've noticed that our reputation is changing in society. The reputation of anarchists. Have you noticed this? Anyone? I saw some chatter about it online, a little bit. Why do you think that is, for those of you who've noticed it? Values. Do we believe in violence? Truth is being revealed, yes. So here's my question. Do we do a good job of modeling nonviolence as a movement? I want you to really think about this. Do we do a good job modeling nonviolence? Can words be violent? Yeah? How many people in the room, show of hands, have heard of the libertarian brutalist movement? Oh, I'm so glad nobody. Okay. How many people in the room have heard of the Free State Project in New Hampshire? Aha, good. So you guys are going to be getting to hear from Carla Garricky. She is the chairman of the board for the Free State Project, and she was running the Porcupine Freedom Festival the first time I attended. Who here's heard of Pork Fest? Raise your hand. Okay. It's like a camping version of this. And this is where I found out I was an anarchist. I showed up as a Ron Paul Republican, small L libertarian, big L being the political party, small L being the philosophy. And I was introduced to people who would call themselves, well, I'm a minarchist or I'm an anarchist. And I thought, well, this is strange. A minarchist being limited government, an anarchist meaning no rulers. I'm a sovereign. And I started questioning things. 1 year later, that was 2009, I came back to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and I participated in a rant-off, and we're having one of those here this year, and Carla's going to be hosting it because we are paying homage to the movement and its history and the amazing things that we have created. So if you are interested in participating in a rant-off, and this can be talking about things you love or talking about things you don't, but animation is the key here. You can practice tonight at the Fiesta Patio run by Alma. Raise your hand, Alma. Everyone look at Alma. And if you are able to present yourself in a captivating way, we are going to invite you with a gala ticket, 6 people, to come to the gala and to perform and compete for tickets to next year's event, okay? Pretty cool. So if you have something to say, this is your chance. I was participating in Soapbox Idol 2010, and I was giving a rant about our movement, okay? Because here's the path for me. It starts out looking around and you see corruption coming from the state, coming from corporations, and you think they're the problem. You point up and you say, leave me alone, I want to be free, you're the problem, right? How many people can relate to that? A few of you? And at this point in time, what am I doing? I'm watching police brutality videos on loop, okay? I'm obsessing over them. I'm watching them. I'm having police confrontations. Who remembers Cop Block in the early days of videotaping police? Couple hands? We got some old school activists in here. All right, so this started with an app called Quick, Q-I-K. It doesn't exist anymore. Skype bought it. You could open a flip phone on like a Razr cell phone, and you could stream really grainy, really awful video. And this is what began it all, right? This is how it began. This is where the We Are Changers began, the cop blockers began, and it was, I see your corruption, and I'm showing everybody. But it was more than that. We didn't just stand back and videotape, did we? No. At least not me. I ran my mouth. I got in cops' faces. I did some crazy things, okay? Yeah, Catherine. Gosh, me. Yeah, I participated in some pretty vitriolic behavior. And at the time, people would say things about me on blogs that I'm a poor representative of liberty because I'm so confrontational, and I took that personal. My ego got in the way, and I didn't want to hear the message, the truth, the reality, which is that the way we exist in the world matters. It matters. And whether you feel justified that you have righteous anger, if you are going out there and slinging mud and spewing arrows, whether they are energetic, verbal, or physical, you are not a representative of liberty at all, because you are enslaved by your anger. True freedom is not something that you can ask for. True freedom does not come from governments. True freedom does not come from any other human being. True freedom is a state of mind. You cannot get freedom. You become freedom. You are freedom. You exist as freedom. This is something I could not see because my ego was in the way. I had justified righteous anger. But they do these things. Can anyone relate to that? And so what happened? How many people here in this room, and it may not be a lot because we have a newer group here, but how many people know someone personally who got arrested in the line of activism of some sort? Raise your hand. How many people in this room got arrested in the line of activism? Raise your hand. Thank you. I want to say thank you. And I'd like to take a moment to honor some really special souls who sit behind bars right now, people who I know and love. We all know Ross Ulbricht. You're going to hear about Schaefer Cox this weekend. And you're going to hear about Joby Weeks. These are three outstanding men who decided to speak out or act out or create something that they were passionate about. These are men who made big waves. I met Schaefer Cox at the Continental Congress in 2009. I was a delegate from Missouri. He was a delegate from Alaska. And we hit it off immediately. Myself, John Bush, and Schaefer Cox, we were the three youngest activists there. And this was a project that came out of a meeting at the Jekyll Island Club. Many of you may not know about this, but there was a meeting of the minds that took place at the Jekyll Island Club. It was created by Bob Schultz from We the People. I would say it was more of a patriot kind of event as opposed to an anarchist event, right? I'm still in this Ron Paul Republican, but we had G. Edward Griffin, we had Ernie Hancock from Arizona, we had Adam Kokesh. There was a crew. And we all came together and we rode the same train that the gangster banksters rode on their way to Jekyll Island to create the Federal Reserve Bank, which is now the managing monetary institution within the United States. For those of you who are international, and those of you from the United States, I highly encourage you to check out G. Edward Griffin's book, all about Jekyll Island and what happened there. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island. And us radicals, we got together, and we had a conversation. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix things? Because we are trying, and things aren't moving. We're exerting all this energy. I did a workshop with Christoph this past week at the pre-event retreat, and he talked about, do you throw energy? Do you suck energy? Are you a vampire? What happens when people throw energy at you? What happens when people suck energy from you? Because I think right now what we have going on is there's these institutions and they're sucking and they're vampires, right? And they're sucking us dry through taxation, through legal oppression, through the drug war, whatever it may be. They're sucking. Ooh, they're sucking energy. They're sucking energy. They're sucking energy. How do we respond? We throw more at them? We throw more at them? What does that do? I know for me, it left me tired, it left me sick, and it left me broke. Fighting. So we have this meeting, what are we gonna do? We decide to pull together a Continental Congress of 2009, and we have delegates elected from all the 50 states, and we come together, we converge in Chicago, Illinois. By the way, back to Jekyll Island. Some of us snuck up on the roof of the Jekyll Island Club and we hung a "Don't Tread on Me" flag. There's pictures of this. I got as far up as the roof and then I got terrified and I was clinging to this window awning and didn't go any further, but I watched them. And I quickly went back in the bathroom window that we came up on. I get a little scared. But some activists did hang a "Don't Tread on Me" flag on the Jekyll Island Club where the Federal Reserve Bank was born. Okay, so these are the kind of energetic, ballsy things we were doing. It was wild and fun, but it was exhausting and draining at the same time. So we meet in Chicago, Illinois, and what do we decide we're gonna do? We're gonna draft a document. We're gonna draft a document and we're gonna deliver it to all of the US representatives and all of the state representatives and all of the city council representatives, and we're gonna demand that they change. We're gonna demand that they be different. Stop oppressing us, here's a letter. We thought this was brilliant. I thought this was brilliant. This was exciting. We were gonna demand change. What happened? Oppression continued to grow. Change did not happen. In fact, we were probably laughed at while we were delivering these letters demanding that government be something other than government. And do you see where I'm going with this? Do we have the power to change other people? No. Who do we have the power to change? Ourselves. So time carries on. Schaefer Cox from Alaska, he goes on a speaking tour on the way from Chicago, Illinois, and he stops in Montana and he gives a talk to a room of patriots. And the talk that he gave, someone in the audience contacted the FBI. And at this point in time, he became a targeted individual, and these exist. And this was real. And by March of the next year, he was calling me saying, they're watching me, they're following me, they're monitoring my calls, and I thought he was crazy. And I said, oh no, Schaefer's paranoid, he's gone off the deep end. But here's the truth, very shortly, he was arrested and put in prison, and not just any prison. He has been existing for a decade in a CMU, secret detention center, and he is one of the only English-speaking prisoners there. He is in a prison full of convicted terrorists, most of whom are from the Middle East, do not speak English, and he has been living in absolute hell. They keep him in solitary confinement in many reasons for his own safety. He had to watch, there's children in the room, so I'm not going to say what, but it was something very bad that happened to another American political prisoner in there. And who is he behind bars with? But other activists, 3 or 4 from the United States, who are speaking out about these things, who are demanding that other people change who they are. And you're going to hear more about him, but I want you to hold him in your heart because recently he just had about a decade taken off of his 26-year conviction. He's fighting his way out, and he's doing it by finding freedom first. He has become a yogi in prison. Literally, we still stay in touch, we still communicate, and what does he want to be sent to him? Send me more information about yoga moves and give me money so I can print more letters to fight for my freedom, and he's been doing that. And there's a movement growing around him. Ross Ulbricht, what is he doing in prison? He's meditating. Okay? These are people living in the most unfree circumstances on the planet, and yet they're finding freedom. Because freedom is not about all of this. Freedom's about this, right here. Now, I know there's a countdown monitor, and I don't know where it is. Right here. Okay, cool. Wanted to check in. So as time progressed, I ended up getting arrested twice. Both times I was sticking up for other people who were being picked on by police officers. The first time was in Maplewood, Missouri, outside of a traffic court, which I was there because I was in the car with another person who was riding around with no registration on their vehicle, doing the sovereign right to travel method. And he got arrested. I had to drive his car home. And in that instance, I got pulled backward out of a car by a police officer because this was at a time where they didn't always bring two officers. Now they bring one to the passenger window. Have you been pulled over recently? There's always an officer at the passenger window now, and they just stand there. And it's kind of creepy if you're not looking that way because you're looking at the officer addressing the driver. I got pulled out backward by a female police officer in Maplewood, Missouri. I was videotaping my friend who was driving, getting arrested, and she took my camera from me. And I took it back, and I turned it around, I shined it right on our badge, and I said, "What is your badge number? Why are you taking my property? Why are you pulling me out of a car?" And she's like, "You don't have to be so aggressive." And I'm like, "You just pulled me out of a lifted truck backward by my arm and took my camera from me, and I'm being aggressive." But if in every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, is it possible that maybe I was being aggressive? Is it possible that I was throwing that kind of shade in order to manifest it right back at me? Is it possible that I was behaving in the exact same energetic way? I wouldn't have thought so at the time, but when I look back and I look in the mirror of Catherine over the past 14 years, I can guarantee you, without a doubt, I was throwing out aggressive energy. So was the person driving the vehicle. Because here's the thing, now that I've learned how to communicate differently, I'm not in those situations anymore. It just doesn't happen anymore, right? So then there was another arrest, 6 months later. Keep in mind, this was a great trauma for me to be put in a cage. It wasn't overnight, but it was terrifying and humiliating. And the whole time I was singing songs and swinging from the bars and oathkeepers.org and, just saying all this stuff. And what have I been charged with? Why am I being detained? Here's what ended up happening, in case you're wondering. Outside of the police station, or outside of the courthouse, they asked people to line up against the wall. We were kind of gathering, court was starting late, and I said, "Get in line, show us your papers, welcome to the new America." And this is right after Obama was elected, and the officer's like, "What'd you say?" And I repeated myself. And he said, "Somebody needs to get a leash for that girl." And this girl, Kimberly, standing next to me said, "Are you calling her a bitch?" And he said, if you don't leave this property in 2 minutes, I'm going to arrest you. And I said, for what? And he said, I will make something up. 2 minutes on the dot. And get this serendipitousness. In line, I felt called to go back to the car and get a pen and paper and put it in my pocket. I'd been standing in line at the courthouse. I got called by my intuition to get a piece of paper and go to the car and get it and come back. And when I came back, this situation happened, and I wrote down, an officer just told me he was going to make up a reason to arrest me, and I handed it to the person who was there with me, and I said, if this happens, have these people sign as witnesses, please. And in the end, listening to that little bit of intuition, this saved my ass, okay? This saved me. Fox News came, they interviewed the witnesses. Internal Affairs tried to tell me I was making it up until I slid those names and phone numbers across the counter to him. They had no reason to arrest me. I was running my mouth, which I'm allowed to do, and they put me in a cage. Long story short, I got a settlement from that, which is how I paid for my midwife for my sweet, lovely baby girl. And I never had to go to court. The second arrest, I was in New Hampshire. I was visiting for the Free State Project, and they had a 420 smokeout. And there were about 80 activists there, and they were smoking, and some locals came up, and apparently they were 17, and they joined in, and they started smoking, and there were undercover officers there, and who did they arrest? 17-year-old black kid. Okay? Here we are, a bunch of Caucasians, middle-aged, smoking weed together, and who do they pick on? And I couldn't help myself. I'm following the officers around. What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm videotaping. And someone engaged in civil disobedience. They sat down in front of the car. And so I started videotaping that, and they drug him behind the car. So I started videotaping that. Well, my adrenaline was pumping, and I did not hear the swarm of police officers show up and clear the road. So here I am videotaping a guy saying, videotape my wrist, they're hurting my wrist, they're hurting my wrist. And I turn around, and there is an officer straddling a German shepherd and says, arrest her. Within 6 seconds, I was in handcuffs on the front of the car. And you know what words came out of my mouth? Do not sick that dog on me. I am here to document this. And you want to know what saved me in court? Those words. I was there to document it. Let your intuition speak. I had 6 months where I didn't know if I was going to be put in a cage for 3 months. Where they were going to fine me thousands of dollars, I did not know. And I began to drink, and I began to spiral into a state of absolute misery. And I went to court, and I was acquitted, but they made me fly back to New Hampshire from Texas. They made me fly home to Texas, and they made me wait 30 days before they sent me my verdict. That was emotional terrorism. I was miserable. I became a drunk. And I realized I have to change everything about my life. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to fight. Because what happens when we fight? Does anybody win? No one wins. So I moved to a farm and I began to heal. I had my babies. And boy, talk about healing, having children, that's looking in a mirror, right? I'm watching police videos and I can feel my baby feeling the energy of it. Nope, turning that off. I began to change what I put into my brain. I began to change what I paid attention to. I began to change what I ate. But still I lived in a toxic household. I go from looking at the tyrant above, pointing fingers, placing blame, only to find that the war was within me. And I want to make things really clear. Corruption exists at every level. Corruption exists in the infrastructure that they have built and tried to impose upon us, and corruption exists within this movement. Look around. We have been raised in a society of trauma-based behavior control. We have been corrupted, and it is our responsibility to heal. We cannot find freedom through fighting. We will find freedom through healing. We cannot build a society of freedom and love if we are all so jacked up from not only the trauma that we have endured, but the trauma of the generations before us. If you want to build a free society with me, then you need to heal. and I need to heal, and we need to come together as healed people so that we can really be free. And that's why I'm here, because when I'm here, I feel free. I feel free in Acapulco. I feel free participating in this. I am here as a yes on every single level. That's why I do the health and wellness, because that's the journey that it took for me, the state, the family, the self, but not just the physical health of the self, the spiritual, emotional, mental health of the self. If I am not in alignment, my family will not be in alignment. If my family is not in alignment, my community will not be in alignment. And if my community is not in alignment, you guys right here, if you are not in alignment, our world will not be in alignment. So if you want to create freedom in our lifetime, I suggest you take a cold, hard look in the mirror. Where does tyranny exist within you? Where? Where does it exist? Can you find it? Close your eyes and get quiet, because it's there. You can find it, and you can heal it. And together we truly can create something beautiful. But it is absolutely 100% impossible if we are trying to create on a foundation of trauma. And that is why these communities that come together are riddled with drama. So before I step off, I have 19 seconds. I want to mention 2 very special communities that I would like for you to look into. They're inspirational. 3. Chiron, Mexico. You've probably heard about it here. I got this there. Go visit. I want you to meet these people. They're not fighting unless they absolutely have to. Cheran, Chiron, Mexico. They had to fight for their freedom, but they are existing in a way that is so beautiful and cohesive. Raven Rocks Eco Village in Ohio. Go check them out. They're a spinoff from the Quakers, and they are sovereign in every way, and they are open and beautiful. I met them at an unschooling conference. And Rethinking Everything. It's a community that's here with us now. We're starting to merge communities. These are multi-generational unschoolers. They are living lives as free, sovereign people, and it's not political. And they're intergenerational. This is year 22 of their gathering. These are grandmothers, mothers, grandchildren attending a conference together who have been living this life of beautiful co-created freedom. They have an emphasis on healing, and I believe that that is how we will create freedom. We need to learn from these communities who have done it, who are doing it, and we need to create a foundation of love so that we can build a community of love. And it starts right here. I love you guys. Thank you.